So I was texting Sid. We were supposed to shoot at like 4 p.m. And they said that, oh, Johnny's going to come in at 5. So I texted Sid saying, oh, Johnny's late by an hour. And Sid texts back saying, that's not the first time he's come late. And then I called Ken, say, Ken, I'm shooting a podcast tomorrow with Johnny Sins. And there was just silence at the other end. And I said, you know Johnny Sins, right? And then Ken's like, what? No, I've never heard of him. And then I was like, is your wife next to you? He's like, yeah. Anyway, Johnny, welcome to India.
Thank you so much.
For those who don't know, you guys, how would you? Because we've kept the whole thing in secret. Johnny and Ranveer shot an ad. That's why Johnny's in India for Bold Care, which is India's #1 sexual health brand for men. And it's a really crazy ad. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I'm just going to play it right now so you guys get a flavor of what the fuck we've been up to for the last couple of days. So check it out.
केशव घर छोड़कर क्यों जा रही हो? क्या हुआ? तुम खुश नहीं हो यहाँ?
जेठ जी, इनकी डाली पे कभी फूल नहीं खिलता।
क्या मतलब? केशव,
चुप, बोलने दो मुझे। आपके छोटे भाई का पप्पू खानदान साला, इनका जो
I'll take care of her. Take bold care of her. 4 out of 10 men are unable to perform in bed. But what most men don't know is that it's very common and very easy to solve. Order our range of high-quality sexual health products on www.boldcare.in today and get instant results.
Johnny, how's your time been in India so far? I know you haven't been able to do much because the whole thing's been secret. What thoughts so far?
It's been a little hard because you come the whole way here to a country you've always wanted to see and really not be able to see it. But I've got to say, the people have been amazing. Everybody's been extremely nice and takes care of you. So the people have been great. And what I've seen so far is really cool.
We were at shoot and we were discussing how there were like 150 people. Is that a lot more than the kind of shoots you're used to?
Definitely. I don't think I've ever seen so many people on set. The largest set I've ever been on in the US is maybe 15 people. And most of my shoots, at least these days, are just me and the girl usually.
Oh, because you're producing yourself now.
Yeah. Most shoots, I'd say, are between 3 and 5 people on set.
That's it?
They keep it very minimal.
Is there a reason for that?
I think more of a comfort reason for the performers. If there's a lot more people on set, it becomes a lot more difficult. Just a lot more pressure on you, a lot more eyes on you.
Okay.
So they try to keep it to a minimum.
But I think if you're okay with like 5 people, is there like a big difference between like 5 and 10?
It also depends on how well you know the people. Because for me, I always wanted to, be familiar with who was on set. Whenever there's, kind of strangers on set, especially if it's their first time on set and they're sort of like big-eyed about the whole thing, like just amazed by it, and then they're just like staring at you the whole time. It gets a little strange. So usually as a guy in the industry, we usually shoot for the same companies, the same directors all the time. So we just become friends with, the people on set. So really we just go and hang out with our friends and shoot a scene, and it's easy for us.
Like, I'm sure you've answered this before, but for everybody here in India, do you remember your first scene and what was that moment like on set?
Well, I remember going onto set and like I hadn't chosen a name yet. The first time on set, you basically tell them what your stage name's going to be, and that's pretty much your name going forward.
Yeah.
So I hadn't chosen a name yet. I was kind of going back and forth between a couple of them.
Okay, can you tell us what the options were?
Well, Johnny Sins is, everybody thinks my real name is Johnny Sins at this point, but it's obviously not. So I got that name from...
Because that would be too much of a coincidence.
Right.
Like, you would be made for this if your name was Johnny Sins.
I didn't give you a choice.
Yeah.
So one of my buddies in college, I'm not going to say his name, but his nickname was Johnny Sins. His name was very similar to it. So everybody called him Johnny Sins. And the day I met him, I was like, that's an amazing porn name.
Your friend must be really wondering where he went wrong.
He actually loves it that
I'm
I
sure.
use his nickname now. He's actually a lawyer now. So.
All right, so you were going to tell us about your first scene, so to say.
First scene was just a blowjob scene. And very nervous, obviously. Not really know what to expect or what's going to happen. It was a very small set, so it made it very comfortable. I believe it was at all POV scenes too, so I wasn't really even in the scene.
But in like a blowjob scene, like, it's not really about you. per se, right? It's about her and her performance more or less, right? Are you expected to perform?
Well, you have to perform, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
you're mainly just standing there.
Yeah.
You're just standing at attention.
Is the director like, hey, that's too much? Like, you need to tone down.
Don't be vocal.
Like, be more subtle about it.
Not in scenes like that. And actually, most directors, for guys in the business, you're sort of the background. The girl's the main star.
Correct.
So for me, it was very comfortable because I don't make a lot of noise during scenes anyway. I don't really want to talk during the scenes. So it's really more about the girl and her talking and making noises than the guy. Because sometimes it's distracting if the guy's, grunting loudly and talking during the scene.
Yeah.
Because you're the background. You're the co-star
Correct.
to the girl.
It's kind of like dancing where you have to make the partner shine.
Yeah, definitely. And I was always comfortable in that role because I never wanted to be the main star. So I was always comfortable as the background role and just making the girl look good.
But this assumes that the majority of the people who are watching are men. But now, do you think that is shifting and now there are more women watching?
Like a lot more than earlier.
Than earlier, yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Well, I would say a lot of, gay bi men watch straight porn
Right.
because they, for whatever reason, but they also like to fantasize about straight men and, maybe turning you gay or bi.
Yeah.
So I would say my fan base is probably 50% gay bi guys and 50% straight guys.
Straight.
So,
And
yeah.
also, like, you're incredibly fit. So I think there's a huge group of guys like, man, this guy's so fit. And I want to look like him. I think people just admire, like, what a specimen of a human being. They're like, damn, that guy's jacked. I hope, like, I can be that jacked. And I know you're a lot into fitness as well, so.
Yeah, I've been working out since, I think, like 15 years old. I was always really skinny growing up. And I got really serious my first year at college. All the guys from the dorm would go to the weight rooms. And so I started going to the weight room. And that's when I started gaining a lot of weight because we would go to the cafeteria and basically eat as much as you could 3 times a day. So I probably put on, 40 pounds of muscle my first year at school. I really never stopped working out since then.
So, Sid, we have discussed how today's world is a world of abundance. Right? There's too much sugar, and similarly, there's too much sex. Like everything is sexualized, right? In India, I know that for youngsters, porn addiction is it's a real thing, right? And for a lot of people, their first engagement with sex is through porn, and then eventually, when they have sex, they realize that this is probably not what it is. So, can you give us a glimpse of just how much work goes in to make that scene what it is? And that, should people expect sex to be like what porn is?
Absolutely not. First of all, I totally agree that most young people are learning about sex from porn. And that's definitely not the way, young people should be learning. But these days, I don't know about here, but in the US, kids aren't talked to about it. I don't know if they were in the past, but my parents never gave me the sex talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you learn it on your own. And now with the internet and porn, it's so readily available that the viewers are just getting, you hate to say it, but younger and younger. It's completely false what you see in porn scenes.
Like, how do you last this long? I'm just going to ask it.
It's a little different for me because I love sex and the act of sex. So for me, I want to make it last as long as possible because when I come, it's over. You only get 1, maybe 2 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So I just love the act of sex. So I want it to go on as long as possible for my own benefit, for selfish reasons. So that's just the reason why I can last so long.
But like on set, like I've heard of a term called a fluffer. Have you guys heard of fluffer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you explain to us what a fluffer is?
There's absolutely no fluffers on set.
Really? Really? It's just a made up thing?
I don't know. There might have been fluffers in the 80s back in the day when maybe things weren't so readily available to help you out as a guy, pills, that kind of thing. So possibly back then, but everybody thinks that, and there's no fluffers on set. If you can't do it yourself, you don't have a job.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
So
that's
now,
a whole other level of pressure.
yeah, it's on a level of pressure. And so tell me what a day of shoot like. Okay, you got to go shoot a scene at 2, but say at 11 a.m. You have a fight with someone and you're just in an awful mood, and sex is not what you want to do in the afternoon. Yeah. So how do you get yourself ready on command?
Sure, and that happens. You just never know what's going on in someone's personal life, whether you're having some sort of issues, problems, fighting with your significant other. there's all kinds of things that can happen. But it's a job and we're professionals. And that's why there's not a lot of guys that can do it. So once you're on set, you just sort of have to clear your mind and hope that you're attracted to your co-star. That certainly makes it easier.
That helps.
Yeah.
Like before a show, like as you said, if you're a comedian, like if you're in a bad mood, you cannot do a bunch of jumping jacks or like, do some breathing and then you go on stage and you're ready. But I'm like, is there like a little thing you do like right before you reach the set? You're like, do you like talk to everybody, have like a coffee or like
what's your routine?
What's your ritual
before
right before? Just to
Well,
get
the routine really starts the night before. You just want to have a good night's sleep. That's number one most important thing for me.
Take notes, guys.
Yeah.
It's like an athlete.
Good night's sleep, stay hydrated. Just taking care of your body is the number one thing. Because if you're tired, if you're dehydrated, it's going to affect your performance. So it really starts the night before. And then I always woke up and, ate breakfast. I'd always make sure to eat breakfast before the scene. I don't really have a routine going into it. Shooting just became a routine. You would go to set and meet your co-star performer. And for me, I never really wanted to talk to them too much before the scene because you always have a fantasy in your head of what they're going to be like. And you don't want to ruin that fantasy sometimes because you never know. Personalities differ, clash. So you go say hi, what's up, little small talk. And then I go in my own room and chill or work, edit, do my own thing. Because sometimes you have to wait an hour, 2 hours, sometimes more. Because when you get to set, it's really about the girl because she's getting her makeup done. She gets what they call pretty girls, which is, the lingerie pictures, that kind of thing. So as a male performer, you're basically waiting for that. And then generally you'll do sex stills first. And that can kind of, set the mood for the scene, get you in the mood. Then you can kind of get to know your partner and, what they like, what they're into. Because you're still having sex during the hardcore stills. And then once that's over, you usually take a little break and then you'll do, if there's dialogue acting, you'll do the acting parts of the scene, which leads into the sex.
And do the dialogues help in the lead up?
It depends on the dialogue. If it's something that turns you on, yes. But a lot of times there will be, a lot of extras on set. You have to memorize all these lines. So you're not really thinking about sex at that point. You're just trying to get through the intro and remember your lines. And hopefully they're not too difficult.
I always wondered what like the production call sheet on like a porn film set are. Like for example, when I'm shooting an ad, I know I got to shoot this scene and this scene and this scene.
Yeah.
And we are okay to interrupt and be like, hey, we got to shoot this next, let's change the schedule around. But with sex, it's like you want to have minimal interruption. And the actors need to probably know what the full scene is. Like you got to do doggy now and then you got to do this and you got to do this. Like that's probably something that you get briefed on.
It depends on the shoot and the company. Some companies are very strict in what they shoot. So they'll shoot 1 minute of wide in this position, 1 minute of close, And
is there interruption on set while that's happening, or do they just go like, you guys continue, we'll figure it out?
Oh, no, interruption.
Interruption,
Yeah,
really?
every time change the camera, stop.
Yeah.
So those are a little more difficult, I must say. But
I like how every man in the audience, whoever is watching, would have just stepped back.
Like, what interruption? Yeah. That's crazy.
So some companies have a formula they follow where it's the same shoot basically every time. Other companies just let you go with it. Whatever happens, they shoot.
So what's really interesting is you're not in voluntary control of your erections at any point because even neurologically, you can't consciously control it. So it's almost as if you are hoping that your body takes over and your body's just managing it. So
It is
how
true.
do you get out of that space of not interfering with what your body's doing?
Well, I think it's just, clearing your head and just being prepared for the scene. And I don't like to take a lot of time off because once you kind of come back, you have to get back into that rhythm of, shooting every day. So for me, if I just shoot every day, you're just in that zone, you know exactly what you have to do. Your body's just, honed in. And
It's like I was gonna say it's like a muscle, but it's literally.
How often are you shooting, Johnny? Like in a month? Like now, how often are you shooting?
well, these days I only shoot for my own production
Correct.
company and mainly put it on OnlyFans. And I'm shooting anywhere from 15 to 25 scenes a month.
25 scenes, and scenes would be like, okay, that's a day.
Yeah.
And each scene is what, like an hour, 2 hours?
Generally, I'll shoot sex for about an hour. By the time the girl gets there and leaves, it's probably 3 hours.
Yeah. Got it. 15, 20 times a month?
For me, I'm single, so
Okay.
I would be trying to have sex anyway. As a business, I might as well shoot it
Yeah.
and make money off it because I'm going to be doing it anyway.
Interesting.
Which raises an interesting question. How do you maintain a work-life balance? Because what is outside of work pleasure for you then?
It's interesting because I say 99% of my sex life is on camera, at least these days. So
Is it weird to have sex and not be shooting then?
no, it's actually nice. But then sometimes it's so good, you're like, I wish we would have shot that. we could have made so much money off that scene.
Interesting. And of course, being like a porn star, do you date like everybody else? Like, do you just show up to a bar and be like, okay, there's an attractive woman, do I talk to her?
It's funny because I'm pretty shy in real life. I'm not the type of guy that's going to go, up to women on bars and hit on them. It's funny because people are always like, how do you do porn when you consider yourself shy?
Seems like an
but
alpha.
taking my clothes off in front of people or cameras, that's not what I'm shy about. I'm shy about, the approaching people and talking to people part. It's like any job. You date your co-stars because that's who you're meeting day in and day out. And for us, it's the opposite because we get to have sex first, determine if we like the person. And then if you like the person, you're like, hey, do you want to go hang out? Go to dinner, go have a drink. So you've already got the hard part out of the way, the sex. So if the sex is good and you got along, you had chemistry, it's easy. I feel like it's easier to date after that, as opposed to not knowing anything. Going on a first date with all the nervousness of sex and the first kiss and all of that's out of the way with us.
It's like work first and then personal.
Yeah.
Do you exclusively only date people in the industry, or have you tried dating outside?
Well, I met my ex-girlfriend. She wasn't in porn when we met. We met on Instagram and we dated for about a year, and then she ended up getting into porn.
Oh, interesting.
So I have met people outside, but it's always that weird thing. Doing what I do, it's most women aren't going to put up with that.
Yeah.
It must be exhausting to constantly keep explaining and like giving context all the time. So when you apart from a dating scenario, just like in friends and social circles, like who do you hang out with? Like who are your long friends? Like are they from childhood? Are they from the industry?
Yeah, most of my good friends are still guys that I knew in high school, college. I do hang out with, other performers from time to time. We go to events and parties together. But I consider like my good friends are still the ones I've known since before porn.
So you'd say that even after all these years of the adult film industry, it's still not as integrated or accepted as other professions.
Definitely not. Yeah. In the US, there's still a stigma behind porn, even though it's getting more popular.
I mean, like OnlyFans is like mainstream.
Well, yeah, especially with OnlyFans. OnlyFans is a mainstream website. Everybody knows about OnlyFans.
Yeah.
And I'd say the majority of people have an OnlyFans account, whether they subscribe to profiles or not.
Correct.
Really?
They have an OnlyFans account. So OnlyFans has made it into mainstream, and especially Pornhub too. I think Pornhub's the number 3rd visited website in the world, behind Google and Alibaba. I think.
Yeah.
I think it's Pornhub next. So I mean, porn is mainstream. They just won't admit it.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? I was going to ask the thing on the internet is that I wouldn't date someone who has an OnlyFans. And now when Johnny said this, that it must be the same for women as well, right? Like Johnny's sleeping with other women. That's not something that most people would be okay with. But only if you're in the industry would you be able to relate and understand that it's a job, and so you don't care. But do you ever feel jealous? Like if you dated someone from the industry and you're like, this person's shooting a scene with someone else, does that not bother you at all?
Yeah, sure. I mean, jealousy is a human emotion, so I think everybody has it.
It's just like, you came thrice, that's not cool.
So of course, if you start to have a crush or feelings on people, when you see them working, you're like, ah. But then you realize it's a business and you do the same thing. What are you gonna say?
It's not fair. I can only come once or twice. But that's a thing still. People can get jealous.
Sure. I see people in the industry that are just perfect for each other, where there's no jealousy involved. And the perfect people are ones who like to watch their partner have sex with other people. Oh. There's a lot of those people out there. And sometimes when they come together and meet and become a couple, like it's pretty awesome because they're doing exactly what they want to do.
What they like.
yeah,
That
yeah.
sounds ideal, right? Like you're just accepting what the other person is and what the other person
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
So
Because it actually turns them on to watch their partner
Right.
have sex with someone else.
So does that increase the chances of people being in sort of open relationships? Or is that better or worse?
You know, in porn, everybody's just different,
Right.
like everybody.
Right.
So it just depends on the people, and so you just never know.
And-
Everybody's different.
An added fact is that you're also incredibly popular. So it's not just like you're an adult porn star, you're also incredibly popular. So there are like multiple facets. Like you're in the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. So I just have so many questions on how do you just navigate through life. Like I read somebody wanted to retire post 40, but now you're producing yourself. And how do you like plan your career and your life and stuff? Because there's no reference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no reference. There's no
I've just kind of been going with the flow.
Yeah.
You know, I was a popular porn performer, and then suddenly, by nothing that I did, the memes started coming out.
Yeah.
Someone started creating memes,
Yeah.
and it went from being a popular porn performer to sort of like an internet celebrity.
Yeah.
Which made me kind of mainstream famous, I guess. Which you start getting recognized outside of the porn circles. But then I also started doing YouTube and social
Since
media.
TV, I'm a subscriber.
Yeah.
Because I get more people saying, "Hey, I love your YouTube videos. I watch you on YouTube," than saying, "Hey, I love your porn videos."
Because it's probably more acceptable to say YouTube than
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
yeah.
But it's interesting to me. I love when people find me on YouTube first.
Yeah.
They think I'm a YouTube star, and then they find out I do porn, and it like blows their mind. Or they find me on TikTok and just think I'm like some social media TikTok guy, and then they're like, "Wait, you've been doing porn for 15 years?" I really love those stories.
Kenny could have said that today. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know him from YouTube.
Yeah, that YouTube guy.
No, but it does come across you come across as a very sweet person and very wholesome. And I think even if you see the comments of Since TV, it's just like, I never knew this guy so nice. And I think that in a very beautiful way came out from your work as well.
I don't know why, but when people watch my scenes, everybody thinks I'm an asshole. And then when they watch YouTube videos where I'm just being myself, everybody's like, "Wow, you're a nice guy. You would probably be cool to hang out with."
I think it's just intimidated.
Yeah, it is intimidated.
So, have you only worked in the adult film industry in the US, or you've also worked in Europe or Asia?
No, mainly the US. I never really shot in Europe until recently. The last month I've been in Europe, but just shooting my own thing.
Okay.
But I didn't shoot for any production companies in Europe. I was just busy in the US and like to shoot for, the directors I was shooting for in the US and just comfortable with it.
Right. So this is just from a space of curiosity. Is there a difference in the industry in Europe or Asia? Would you know something about that?
I don't know. I hear European productions are more difficult, longer days. I don't do a lot of anal. And I know European sets are very much anal based, a lot more anal
Oh,
sets.
really?
Yeah.
Johnny, how do you appreciate another actor in your industry? Like, do you ever watch someone else's scene and think that, hey, he did a good job, or you're like us where you just don't give a fuck what the guy is?
Well, no, I respect guys in the industry. It is a hard job.
Yeah.
It's hard to do it day in and day out for years. So the guys that have been around for a long time, doing it at a high level, total respect for those.
Do you guys share notes?
Sometimes we'll talk about girls that we shot that have been really good that we recommend, or ones maybe you shouldn't shoot, but not really, because everybody has their own style. So sharing notes as far as like performance wise, no, but sharing notes as far as like who you should shoot with, who you shouldn't shoot with, yeah.
Do you watch porn otherwise? Like, do you just watch porn like the rest of us?
Do you watch yourself?
I do still watch porn, yes. I'm like any other guy. If I'm not shooting, I'll still masturbate. And I like to watch porn to masturbate, like I always have. So sure, I'm on Pornhub too.
What are your favorite categories?
For me, because I know most of the American performers, I can't jerk off to them.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
Once
fair
you-
enough. Yeah.
Once you get to know someone too well, you're just like, I don't want to watch that. So for me, it's European or amateurs. So just people I don't know.
Fuck, now that we've become friends, there's just so many videos that I can't watch. You just ruined
That's
you
the
for
thing.
me.
Once you get to know someone too well, it's hard to watch their porn videos.
It's hard to hear your own, like a recording of your own voice.
Yeah.
Is it like that for you? Like when you watch the edit, you're like,
at least early on, maybe like the first 5-6 years, I've said I'll remember every scene I've ever done. But now I'll see scenes and I'm like, when the hell did I shoot that? Or I don't remember that at all. So I'll watch those and be like, oh wow, that's crazy. It doesn't even feel like you because you don't remember shooting it.
My favorite categories are like porn that pretends to be like it's real. Like I'm a big fan of like fake agent, fake taxi. Just people pretending like it's a real scene and it's, you know, otherwise all the fictional stuff, which is plumber comes home and that kind of thing, that I know is like it's scripted. But the taxi stuff and the fake agent stuff feels like this could really happen.
Well, that's another problem too. I think young people watching porn, they think getting laid is much easier than it really is in real life. Like it's hard to get laid in real life. Even for me, if I was to go out and try to get laid, it would be difficult for me. And I think it skews people's minds of how easy it is to get laid. They think they're just gonna, you know, jump into a taxi. If your driver's hot, then you're gonna have sex with them.
There's a scene in Friends where they watch porn for 3 days straight, and they're surprised when a pizza delivery girl comes, gives the pizza, and goes away without having sex with them.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. People are always ask me, was that real? Did you really pick that girl up? And no, everything in porn is fake. You meet beforehand, you exchange tests, you know, you fill out paperwork, and then you go and do the pickup or whatever it is.
I think it's like two big categories of porn, which is like the high, well-produced one, and then the amateur, and sometimes even faking reducing the quality of production on purpose
to make it look more real.
More real, right? Like, and I think it's going towards the the OnlyFans model of this is authentic. This is
definitely. It's interesting because if you overproduce a scene these days, it doesn't sell. People really want to just be a voyeur in your bedroom, and there's still obviously, you know, highly produced porn that does well, but it's just two totally separate categories. And I just feel like people with OnlyFans, and especially now that a lot of, you know, amateur girls, Instagram models, these girls that you just fantasized about on Instagram are suddenly doing porn. I mean, it's always been around, but it's kind of a whole new category.
I mean, that is what porn is. Like, it's voyeurism, right?
Yeah.
It's essentially seeing other people have sex. So, like, I think it makes sense that you want to feel like it's as real as it can get. But I think in the beginning part of your career, you were like in the high production, like the Brazzers kind of like plot line and
Brazzers has been the main company I've shot for. You know, the highest production I've shot is like the Vixen sites. Brazzers is kind of somewhere in the middle.
It's so weird for me to say. I've been talking to Johnny since like
But being on a Vixen site is like a mainstream shoot, just with sex basically. But Brazzer shoots are a little smaller, a little more amateur. But
no, Vixens are like well produced. It's like properly done.
Yeah, they're a little more difficult because they'll wait for the perfect light, and so they'll wait for the perfect sunset light, and then all of a sudden it's like,
Also, like, it kind of freaks me out when the acting is like really good.
It's really good. It's like movie quality some of it, right? Like
it depends because sometimes if you just say the line and you get the words right, they're like, okay, cool, let's move on. So the acting doesn't really matter. Brazzers is kind of like that, you know, as long as you say generally what the script says, and it makes somewhat sense. You know, you don't have to be a great actor. But then there's other sites. I know, like sites like Deeper Now and Vixen. They actually concentrate more on the acting, whereas you'll do a line or a scene, you know, 10, 15 times to get the feeling right. And so it really just depends on the director.
Now that you produce your own stuff, and now that you have almost sort of the back office of what an adult company would be. It's almost like having YouTube data, right? Like if you are watching your videos and you see retention drop, like you can tell when everybody came, right? Like when watching the videos, like if you watch retention go down, that's the moment that people came, right? Like, do you have that kind of data? Like, do you guys do analyze?
Unfortunately, OnlyFans doesn't provide that kind of analytics. I wish they did, and it would actually be nice to see a company come in and create analytics like that for OnlyFans. But yeah, unfortunately, we don't have those kind of analytics. You know, you can see from like Google Analytics. what time
Who's
people
watching
are
and
going,
what time.
who's watching. But as far as the video itself, it's hard to
But
it's hard to get in.
that's interesting because how good your video is, if the retention time is very short,
Very short. That's probably
it's
good.
probably good. The better your video, the quicker the.
But it just depends too, because everybody likes something different. Some people want to watch blowjob, other people fast forward through
Yeah,
it, other
correct.
people just want to see the cum shot.
Correct.
You would see it would be very skewed on people would start the video in
Yeah.
all different
Right.
places too, because a lot of people they'll skip the intro, but obviously a lot of people watch the intro because they need a story with their sex.
Yeah, I don't skip the intro. Like I want to know what's going on.
Me too. I like
Yeah.
I like a little intro myself.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you go into, they call them gonzo shoots, where there's no intro, you just go
You just-
straight to the set.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are a little more difficult because you just get to set and they're like, okay, go.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like I said, if it's an intro that turns you on, then you can it's kind of like foreplay.
It gives you context.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I want to go back to when you were starting, right? Like when you were just starting. Nowadays it's easier because porn has been democratized, so you can start your own OnlyFans. But back in the day, how did someone break into the industry?
Yeah, I had no idea either. For me, the story is I went to high school with a girl who eventually got into porn after high school. And she would come to my college and party, and we ended up hooking up there. And she was like, you should come to LA and do porn. You're perfect for it. At the time, I was 20. I
Dude,
think.
what a compliment.
That's what I was
What an
thinking.
absolute beast of a compliment. Dude, you're so good, you should be in porn.
I was 20 years old. I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to finish school and have a career. That was my thoughts. But fast forward 5 years, graduated college, had my career, and hated it. I was in construction management and basically worked, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week.
And now you're in destruction management.
And that was always in the back of my head. Her voice was like, you should come to LA and do porn. And after a year of just working my first job and hating it, I was like, okay, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to do what I want to do. So I just quit that job. I was working in Las Vegas, quit that job, moved to LA, started pursuing porn. That girl was out of the business already, so I didn't have any connections. And back then, this was 2005, 2006, there was barely any, if any, social media. So there was really no way to connect with companies like there is today. So I just started answering ads on, back then, I don't know if you guys have Craigslist.
Yeah, we know of it though.
Yeah, they had an adult section on Craigslist, which is gone now. And sort of other websites where people listed, adult work. And I would just start answering ads, and 99.9% of it was complete bullshit. But you could find work in there. So I started basically just working for free. There would be amateur directors that would hire a girl, and they didn't want to pay a guy. Because they're like, why would I pay a guy to have sex? So they would just put ads up, and found a couple jobs like that. And eventually would work with a girl one of the first girls I worked with, her boyfriend was a director who was looking for new male talent. And what's funny is those were my very first Brazzers scenes. It wasn't even Brazzers back then. It was just a website. I don't even know what it was, like Girls in Pigtails or something. But one of my very first scenes turned into what Brazzers is today. So I've technically been working for Brazzers since the beginning.
Oh, wow.
So I sort of just got lucky and,
Do you remember your first paycheck?
$100.
Oh, I take that for first paycheck.
That's what I was like. I would do it for free, so I'll take $100. I did a couple scenes like that for $100, and then eventually met Devin Lee on one of my sets, who was good friends with Lisa Ann, who was a very popular
Of course.
performer, and she had just started an agency, and she was looking for people to
Talent to
represent
manage.
new guys. So I was like, sure, if she can get me a couple jobs a month or whatever, it'd be great. So I met with her, and basically she made a couple phone calls the next day. I was working full time.
Oh, cool.
And I started with a company called Pistol Whip. She got me a contract with a performer named Julian was running it. And he was an ex-performer, so he knew how difficult it was. And when I signed that contract, I went to $400. And then about every 3 months, he would raise it $100. So I eventually, once that contract was up, I was making $800 a scene. And at that point, I was like, it was a career. I was like, I'm making more than a doctor or a lawyer would make in a day.
Yeah.
Just to come in.
All professions that you also are.
Yeah. Just to come in and have sex and be on set for 3 hours. But I never thought it would last. I just thought it would end at some point. I was like, this is too good to be true. You know, I'm just going to enjoy it now.
And how many years has it been since then?
Oh man, 15, 16
years,
now.
16 years?
I got into the AVN Hall of Fame last year, which is 15 years.
Crazy.
Now it's been 16.
But do you look back? Do you have an idea why you lasted for so long, pun intended?
I just really enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And I actually retired in 2019.
Oh.
I was just sort of tired of doing the mainstream shoots. And I was living on the beach in Mexico for 6 months. And then COVID happened. I moved back to the US. And that's sort of when OnlyFans blew up.
Okay.
During that period, because everyone was sitting at home with nothing to do.
Yeah.
So performers started shooting their own things. You know, all the fans started migrating to OnlyFans because the companies weren't putting out new scenes.
Yeah.
So it just kind of organically happened. So you can kind of thank COVID for OnlyFans blowing up.
Yeah, and is OnlyFans like now a serious business threat to like Pornhub and YouPorn and that kind of thing?
It's definitely a competitor.
Competitor, yeah.
I wouldn't say Pornhub because Pornhub's free, but it's definitely competition to the pay sites. I noticed a shift where the companies offer us a lot more money to shoot for them because they know we can just do our own thing on OnlyFans. Probably make the same, if not more money. So they're suddenly offering us more money, treating us better.
Right.
So it's been a benefit.
Sort of like what Spotify did to the music industry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Something similar.
Yeah, definitely.
On OnlyFans, like, so you have like X number of people subscribe to you monthly. Do you have like a strategy to make more people subscribe? Like, do you know that, hey, if I do this, I know that word will travel and maybe more people will subscribe?
Well, my OnlyFans is free, so everyone can subscribe for free.
Really? It's for free?
Yes, but I charge for the videos. You can do it both ways. You can either charge monthly, like a pay set, or like a pay
Or like a
site,
specific, each product?
or
each
just make it free to join. And I sort of do it like a social media site too, where I'll post social media things, pictures, videos of what I'm doing, trailers, sometimes a little bit of free content. But most of the videos are pay-per-view.
Pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And like if you get like a female star to shoot, because the star will know that you're making revenue from this. Like, do you do a revenue split with them? Like, how do these things work?
Most of the time, we'll just do a content trade. So it's a great business because there's very little overhead.
Yeah.
You're using your cell phone basically to shoot. You're shooting it in your own house. There's no cost. OnlyFans takes 20%, but pretty much any website you do, you know, that's just the cost of doing business.
YouTube takes
And-
more.
YouTube takes more
Yeah,
actually.
very
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you basically share the content. So you each get a copy. You each kind of edit it however you want. They put it on their website. You put it on your website.
Collab posts.
Collab.
Yeah, collabs.
I was wondering if like when you were starting off, there must have been periods where you were like insecure about yourself, like because before you had made it. What are porn stars usually insecure about, especially men?
I would say, I mean, you're definitely worried about your performance day in and day out. Because if you show up and your dick's not working, it's pretty embarrassing. So you're definitely insecure about that.
Has that ever happened to you?
I mean, sure, it happens to everybody. You can work through it most of the time. I think there's been 2 days in my whole career where I would consider it a poor performance and wouldn't accept the paycheck. I was just like, I can't accept the paycheck for that.
Oh,
scene.
really?
Is
Yeah.
this been 2 times in your entire career?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, I had 2 times like yesterday. That's crazy. Okay.
Your looks, you know, your body. Because also, if you start reading the comments, it can get in your head.
Oh.
Yeah. I think for everybody,
Yeah,
for YouTubers, you know, TikTokers, once you start reading the comments,
It's like, it's a bit much.
Because, you know, there will be 100 good ones, but that one negative one really
Yeah.
sticks
That
with
sticks
you.
in your head.
Yeah.
So how common is the use of like enhancing pills, some like Viagra during these shoots?
Viagra's very common.
Okay.
But not even, I mean, these days, guys are going way beyond Viagra.
Sure.
Going to, you know, shooting it up, basically, or pumps. There's all kinds of things now.
And that's common.
Yeah.
And like penis enlargement surgeries, is that also common? Is that a thing?
No. Everybody asks me about that, but I don't think you can actually do it and make it work and look
Is that a thing though?
physically nice.
Penis enlargement surgery, is that a thing? Like, do people get it done? Is it even scientifically possible?
I think you can, but I just don't think I don't think the technology is there to to.
So all those ads.
There's no pills. Nothing can make your dick bigger. It's just
You heard
you're
it.
born with it, and that's what it is. You know, all the companies will lie to you. You can stretch it. You take these pills, but that's all bullshit. If it was true, every dude would be walking around with a huge dick.
Correct. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we all are.
He's like, I don't know about you, but
And like, I've always wanted to ask you this. Like, does size matter? It's like, is this a thing that, you know?
I don't know about you. Have to ask the girl on that.
Yeah.
But the girls I shoot with and hang out with, yes, because they're in the business. That's what they enjoy. But I would say for the average girl, it doesn't matter. I think it's actually probably better for them that the guy has a smaller dick.
How is it better?
Well, most girls will complain that, you know, it's too big and you're hurting them, they're sore. So I think girls that just want to have regular sex, have an orgasm, and go on about their day, they don't want or need a guy with a huge dick. I think that's it's really just in porn.
And is it true that in porn, just the average penis size in porn is just way bigger than the regular dudes?
I would say so.
It's
I
like
mean, there are a lot of guys. There's a lot of average guys in the business. I think the average is like 6 inches. So there are a lot of guys that work that are average. But most of the guys, are probably on the bigger side.
It's like NBA. It's like
There are other average guys that can play.
Yeah.
like a 6-inch guy is like the shortest guy in the
Well, it's
court.
interesting because I didn't know I had a big dick before I got into porn.
Okay.
And I started shooting for the big dick websites.
Oh.
And I was like, I guess I do. Because I didn't have anything to compare it to.
That's way too
Because I only watch porn, so it was sort of the same size.
You're
So I
like
was
the opposite of every guy on the planet who thinks, oh no, do I have a big dick?
All right, Johnny. Before we head towards the end, I wanted to have you read the Kama Sutra?
No.
You haven't?
No.
Oh, it's basic literature for you, right? It's like,
I've always meant to, but I just never have.
Since you're in India, I think we can just.
can I show you some of the positions in the Kama Sutra, and can you give me like your perspective on, you know, what do you think about these positions? Is it hard? Is it
Sure,
difficult?
I'll let you know if they would actually work. or
Yeah,
not.
could you read out the positions and then describe them?
The bridge. So the guy's basically doing a backwards bend, and the girl is on top. That would be very difficult because it's hard to hold a backwards bend like that
Like that for
without having sex. And all the blood's going to rush to your head and your arms and your legs, and not in your. You really want the blood in your dick, not rushing.
It's
everywhere.
basic physics.
Yeah, basic physics.
What
So
about
not rushing.
ape sex position?
Ape sex? I mean, that could work. I mean, you're just laying on your back basically.
It seemed that enjoyable with your leg on her back. And,
Yeah, I've actually. I don't know if I've ever seen this one performed. I've seen it where the girl's the other way, and I forget what they call that position, but it's more like the girl is in control in this position and fucking you as opposed to you fucking
the other
her.
way.
Balancing act position. That one would be difficult. You'd have to have a very tiny girl for that to work.
Yeah.
It could work with the right size person, but yeah.
Yeah, the Y curve that seems common enough. I've probably seen that.
Yeah, that's pretty common. And we call it lazy doggy, except she's just over the
You got a lazy doggy.
Yeah, lazy doggy. She's just laying.
It's like she's just like, okay.
Yeah, you're just both laying down.
And then we have the standing wheelbarrow sex position.
Yeah. They make you do that in porn scenes. It's difficult, but you can do it.
It's like doing a deadlift while having sex.
Yes, basically. In a lot of porn scenes, they'll ask you to do crazy positions. What they do is ad shots. So they want a GIF basically to use in Pornhub ads, in various ads. So they'll have you do positions like this for 30 seconds, as long as you can hold it, 30 seconds. And they just want a GIF so they can make an ad out of it. So you do positions like this a lot. Directors have always asked me if I can do things like this, and I say, I always try. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I'll always try.
This is more for marketing, basically.
Yeah, marketing.
This is about the packaging. Johnny, before we wrap, I wanted you to probably speak to the audience, and there are a lot of young folks who are, probably very underconfident, either about the first time they're going to have sex, or just generally insecure, or they feel underconfident. Is there anything you want to tell them so they can improve their sex lives?
Well, I think it's just being confident in yourself. Sex and everything is just confidence. It's all in your head. And once you start thinking negatively or thinking that it's not going to work, you're not good enough, it's going to affect you. So really confidence is key. And just just knowing that you just are who you are. You're probably not going to perform like, a professional porn star.
Like you.
But I don't think I don't think most girls want that anyway. So really, it's just if you have a partner, you just have to be honest and talk to them. Because I feel like most people these days, there's no communication between your partner with sex, and you're just guessing what the other person wants or what they like. And you should actually know what the other person wants or likes, and then it takes all of that, nervousness away. If you know what they want, you know exactly what to do. You're not guessing, and really just be confident in yourself.
That's great
so
advice.
wholesome.
That was so wholesome. I know.
Because you actually made it really sound like the industry is a very different thing, and actual life is very different.
Different, yeah.
Yeah.
And for everything else, there's Bold Care. Johnny, thank you so much. This was really nice. Thank
No
you
problem.
so
It was great
much.
talking to you
Thank
guys.
you. Yeah. Thank you for
Appreciate you for having me on.
Thank you for 2 very, very fun days. Hope you guys enjoy this. Check out the ad. It's probably going to be, on my Instagram. It'll be all over. You guys are probably going to see it. And see you guys next time.